I'm just saying in like what we were just talking about. You know how you were like, oh, if people are watching this for the first time, I don't think it would be a great representation of like, oh, this is how this guy is, or if I went to watch him do stand-up, this is what it's going to be like. You know, we're doing these fucking things. We get in a fight halfway through the fucking thing.
See, I don't look at that. That moment that you look at as a fight was the moment where I'm like, I'm so glad we're doing this.
Right.
Didn't feel like a fight to me.
Not a fight, just a frustrated, like fucking boiled over conversation. You know, where it's like a lot of shit going on.
Welcome to Take Your Shoes Off podcast. My name is Rick Glassman, and I think this is the end of the balcony series stretch. I have my goblin sitting in for my guest, who I was just informed is doing it from home. This is the setup I have. I have my cameras and lights in the position that the balcony series normally is. So, okay. Hello?
Can you hear me talking, Rick Glassman?
Yeah. Hey, man.
Hey, buddy. How are you? You look great.
Thanks. You look good, too.
Thanks, man.
So, I think you've... I don't know how much you've been watching, but I know I do a balcony series.
Oh, I'm a huge fan.
Thank you. And I have it all set up, and I'm bummed that you decided to... What is it? You don't want to leave the house? What's the deal?
It's just a little too much, and I know how you are. You know, then I come in the balcony and you do the snap. I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be in the room when you're doing that, like those things.
Why?
It just seems silly. It seems so silly to and then like.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I guess. But the quality suffers, and I don't know if you've been doing your podcast. You do a solo podcast, yeah?
I do a solo podcast, yeah.
Yeah, well, when we're talking, it just doesn't feel the same. And I can make it very easy if you come over. Just come over. I have my goblin sitting in for you right now. And we're good to go. And I could just snap you over.
Yeah, if you do the snap thing and it works, I'll come over.
Okay, I got to let you know something, though. If you do come over, I'm going to need you to go your pee-pees and poo-poos at home first because I don't let anyone in the place.
Okay.
Come over. I bought this new Premiere After Effect thing, and it basically it works. It works. I couldn't think of a made-up technical. Just snap.
Sure. I saw it happening. I saw the wheels turning.
Snap for me,
Nobody
baby.
was home.
Wait, get out of the... I need you to get out of the chair because otherwise Amir's going to squish you. All right, snap on in, baby. Hi, Doogie.
Do you have to snap me in?
No, you snap. The way is you look into camera.
It's not going to work. I'm telling you, it's not.
Scoot doo, blabbity blue, scoop dee. Oh yeah!
All right, Amir, I'm going to tell you something that I tell all my guests, which is, for some reason, my camera's shut off sometimes. And I usually could hear it, but I'm not sure. So it's annoying for me. I have to imagine it's annoying for my guest. Every 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to go like this to see if it's still recording. Normally, I do that while you're talking. That way, the camera can not show me doing it. If it's distracting...
Could I tell you something?
Yeah.
If we weren't friends... The amount of shit I had to do just to do this one fucking podcast. I'm so glad it's a wonder to me how anybody else has come to do the patio series.
It's tough. It's a tough gig to convince people to want to do it.
I love you, buddy. It's all good.
Yeah, man. And when you got here, I was with disinfecting wipes, all the cables, and you're like, oh, you take this seriously. And even my response to you, which was, I don't want to talk now, just wait until, it's like, oh, I'm so fucking tough.
It's like, it's what a guy, you know what I mean? If I went to an interview or something,
right,
and the guy was like that, and I'm going to brush my teeth.
I know, dude.
I'd be like, go fuck yourself.
I know, man.
I'm going to jump back over this fence that I jumped into, and I'm going to get out of here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being my friend.
Oh, it's so great. This is dope. This is like if I was in a cool like Valley prison That's outside, and you came to visit me.
There's been
Okay.
just the work of some of the people. I'll be putting in B-roll now of Brent climbing up the balcony and Rory Scovel driving up, and I've had a few people climbing. I had Sosie Bacon, who's a guest. She is an actress, and she's on the new show that I'm on. And she's a lady, and I say that because there's a difference between guys and girls.
Sure.
I could go on for like 10 minutes about this.
Please do.
But the fact that she had, and I told her, just like I told you, pee at home.
Pee at home. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, she didn't. She had to pee.
So she thought it was a joke. But I know you. I've peeled oranges in the back of your new car, and it's led to disastrous after effects and a friendship that was, on the rocks for about 2 months because of it.
Was it really? Or are you being silly?
No, I'm not being silly at all. It's just how my friend Ron Gladish is.
So you thought it was weird that before you got in my new car when I was driving us to the ice house, I said, listen, man, there's no eating in the car. Not only did you bring food, not only did you not ask me.
Hold the phone. Let's hold the phone. Let's give him some context here.
Well, then you hold it.
Yeah.
You hold
so
the phone.
At this point,
you hold the phone.
At this point in our relationship.
Okay.
At this point in our relationship, you had asked, you said no eating in the car. So me being a normal human being, I go, oh, he means like no eating, big meals in there. You know what I mean? No condiments, no fucking hamburger with fries and ketchups. And me, poor little guy, I don't have any money. We're going to an open mic maybe or the Ice House to do a show. This is years ago when we're brand new into comedy. And I'm like, I got this orange. He's not going to worry. It's an orange. It's clean. It's vitamin C. So I think I can eat this orange and no one's going to know the difference. I'm in the back. And Rick starts going, you can smell the fucking orange. And he go, Amir, and then I was afraid you were going to crash because I was in the back seat and you kept turning around. Because like once the orange had opened, once I put my finger in the orange to peel it, it was like a fucking shit show. And I think John was with us.
Yeah. I have 5 words for you.
Go ahead.
Is there a messier fruit?
Is there a messier fruit? Oh, pretty good. Messier hit me with 2 because I almost counted it twice. But
I didn't say 6. I would have said 6 syllables.
Dude, there's tons of messier
7.
fruits.
What's a messier fruit than an
watermelon?
Orange? A messier fruit that somebody takes out and prepares on the go. You don't prepare a pineapple on the go.
Okay, sure. Banana could get messy.
Anything can get messy. Believe me. That's why I am the way I am. But I'm saying, like a banana, you open, it's like, you could even kind of close the peel and maybe even put it in a bag again. Once you open an orange is like masturbating. Once you get to that line, even if you don't want to climax, it's about to get wet.
Right.
We'll be right back with a word from our sponsors. Oh. All right, I think we both snapped. You snap. If you're looking for just the right flooring, you need choices. And at Marshall Carpet One, you'll certainly find them.
And we're back. But you see, a strawberry, it could just be just as messy, depending on how you eat it.
Okay.
Okay, would you prefer if I had strawberries or oranges? I know you'd prefer neither, but if you had to choose, oranges, strawberries.
Well, there's a lot of strawberry for sure, but there's a lot of reasons. Let's just look at the remnant of the fruit. When you're done with a strawberry, chances are you have a little bit of a white rim with some stem. Gross.
I don't like to go that deep, though. I don't go all the way in, so I do have more of the fruit on there.
Okay.
Because when you get to the white, it's not as good. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I understand. But an orange, you have a messy peel. Also, think of what your fingers look like after an orange versus after a strawberry. And hold the phone.
You know what? I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, when you're eating an orange, when you're done, if you don't have a napkin, and also even you need a wet napkin, you're doing this. You're touching the seatbelt.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
Orange who?
Orange, you glad we're friends?
Yes.
See, if I would have just done that joke and eased the tension, then I think we would have been fine.
Yeah, I until this moment, I always thought we were fine. I just meant like, hey, don't eat the orange, man.
Yeah, you were aggressive about it.
You have to tell people what you want.
Yeah, that's true. And you're really good about that. I'm
Hold the phone.
I'm more of a people pleaser. I tend to be that. I feel like in my life I've been. So, And I tried to bend the rules a lot, you know, just like the eating in the back of your car. I didn't think it was serious. I didn't take it as serious as that you came across.
How long have you known you're a people pleaser?
I don't know, man. As I grow older, I was like, oh shit, that's what I've been doing, and that's, you know, it's with girlfriends and whatnot, you know. I feel like that's what it is. Or with friends, I just want to make everybody happy. Your camera's off?
Has it been off the entire time? Hello?
I'm gonna get going. What is?
Could you hear it just out of one side now, right?
Yeah. Something happened there. Hold the phone.
All right. If you want to really be a people pleaser, why don't you call Panasonic and tell them to send me some new fucking cameras?
Are you GH5ing?
I'm GH7ing because there's 3 of them.
Ah, okay.
And I thought, you know, I could get 3 of these for the price of 1 of those.
Sure, and they're good quality. Looks great.
Looks great. Thanks. I just have to, every 5 minutes, go like this.
Well, that's the great thing about the GH5 is, you know, you pay for what you get.
I think the problem is I kind of hacked these to shoot unlimited 4K, and they're not built for that, where the 7 is. So I think there's just some issue with that. Yeah, maybe if we get enough money for the show, I'll upgrade my cameras. I want to talk more about the people-pleasing thing, because I'm surprised to hear you say that, though I don't disagree. In fact, I know. But that seems like something that maybe would have been awareness that could have been relatively new to you.
Pretty new. I mean, it's like I've learned a lot in this quarantine, dude, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, about little stuff about, you know, the way I am, or, you know, my just to take a little inventory this last few months. And just seeing, like, what I could do better, or, like, what, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't care about anything.
I mean, it's pretty broad. I understand what you're saying. It's very broad. Could you give any examples?
Yeah.
Are you living with your girlfriend?
No. I don't have a girlfriend right now.
Oh, yeah? What about now?
Hey, honey. I'm not interested at the moment because I don't goblins, but...
Yeah.
Is she going to be here the whole time?
You could just ask her to...
Oh, if you could just...
Yeah, see how she has no ego with this stuff?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was nice.
I thought you have a girlfriend. I thought you... Not only do I think you have a girlfriend, you just said earlier, and we'll rewind, you saying that, especially with my girlfriend.
No.
Oh, yeah? Watch this.
With girlfriends and whatnot.
See?
No, with girlfriends. If you watch the tape...
So then...
With girlfriends and whatnot.
Oh.
With girlfriends.
Okay.
Slow it down.
With girlfriends and whatnot.
There it is.
This is already going to be a 50-hour editing episode.
And that's what my goal was.
Okay, so tell me about some of the things and why you learned them during quarantine. Was it because you were forced to not have people to please, or did you have time to be introspective?
No, I just realized that, like, oh yeah, like I'll go, and then if someone's
I was kidding. Yeah, I'm fucking rude. All right, we'll be right back.
Oh boy.
Carpet, hardwood, rugs, and luxury vinyl. I do really want to know, and I didn't mean to belittle the conversation we're having. I just
yeah, man. If you want to get serious,
you know?
we can get serious. But it's just I just realized that. I know that when I do shows and shit, I get upset if one guy's not laughing. That's like a people pleaser complex. You know,
a lot of comedians talk about that. A lot of comedians talk about they pay attention to the one person that's not laughing. They say that about online too. Like 1,000 great comments, they pay attention to the one. So that isn't as specific as...
No, I'll give you an example. Like when I go to the comedy club and then I have a feeling that somebody doesn't like me, that really fucks with me. You know what I mean? Like if whoever it is, like one comic doesn't like me, it bothers me a lot. And I shouldn't be that way, you know? Like I shouldn't give a fuck, but I do.
You know, there's this idea that we shouldn't care what other people think, and what you saying I shouldn't give a fuck. It's not that black and white. Absolutely care. I care what people think, and I think it's good to care what people think. There's a difference between... I look at it in the same way I look at fear. There's a difference between acknowledging fear and accepting and recognizing it exists versus letting it control your actions and your decisions.
Sure.
I remember once, and I talked about this on another podcast, but I didn't go to a show. Do you remember, and I don't know if you were this way, I have to imagine, for me, even first years of stand-up, let alone the first 2, if I had a show at night, the whole day,
you're just thinking about it. Even the night before, you're thinking about it, and you're not sleeping. You're like, shit, what am I going to do? What am I going to... Those nerves were just...
all day, right?
All day,
You don't schedule anything during the day.
No.
I have to make sure I eat the healthiest I've ever eaten. and I'm just terrified. And one time I decided, I made an excuse. I didn't do the show. And I ended up, I called into school sick. And after that, I was so mad at myself. First of all, it's still so hard to get spots.
Yeah.
We moved out here to do this.
Well, it depends on where you're at in your career, yeah. But I mean, and how much you're around and all that stuff.
Well, for me, it's still hard to get spots. When I don't do open mics really anymore. I mean, I will if I go with somebody, I guess. But I used to do realistically 4 to 7 shows a week, including open mics. Now I'm not doing anything. But last year I was doing between 2 and 4 a week.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, and once you get to that point too, where you're making a little money and you're on a couple shows here and there, it's like that fire and that hunger for the shit goes away a little bit. I feel like, I mean, because you correct me if I'm wrong, but I was doing, mics. And Ian Edwards said one thing that I think would be good for anybody that's like looking to get into stand up or is in stand up right now, and is going to the mics and going like, I shouldn't go to these. Well, why am I still going? I should progress. But I think it was him that said it. He said, you go to the open mics until they pay you not to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you're not making money doing stand-up, then you have no, you can't be like, I just don't do mics anymore. I don't like them. They're fucking, that's part of the process.
The reason I stopped doing mics, and again, I maybe once every other month I'll go to one, is they don't do anything for me.
They do, though. I mean, you say that.
They don't.
Well, that's personal opinion. I mean, I think you go if you want to work something out, unless... I mean, like, your style is so, like, I've seen, sets vary so drastically with you that, like, I think they would help you. I beg to differ, man. I think that definitely every set that you do helps you.
Well, then do it.
Somewhere.
Beg to differ.
I'm begging, please. Please, let me fucking argue with you. Hold the phone.
Yeah, so I've had conversations with people about this stuff, and some people believe you got to do 30 shows a month. You got to get up as much as you can. And I think that's a great place to start. To find who you are and what works for you, but it's inefficient to me. It's inefficient to go to a mic.
At this point, if you can spend your time better doing something else, then do that.
That's what I'm saying.
There you go. And like doing the podcast, it's beautiful. It's grown. I see, and I love the clips that you do, and it's just like it's a fun thing that you're doing, and you're having fun doing it. I feel like now at this point in your stand-up career, it's not fun for you to go to the open mic, and you're not getting maybe as much as you would back in the day. But it's not to say that when you do that set that you may get a tag or you may get a something.
Absolutely. You may get anything. That's why it's important to live life and get experiences, whether it's an open mic or going on a date. I mean, doing things is proactive and it's great, but it's not efficient. And a lot of times, especially the open mics that I'm aware of in LA, and I've gone to probably most of them that exist, the audience is 95% comedians, if not 100% comedians. They're comedians that are year 1 through 3, and they all think anything that is kind of funny is really funny, or they're not even listening, right? I don't need to be in a room full of, it would be like me playing basketball with 13-year-olds.
Sure.
I don't think it's good for me. I think they like me too much.
No, well, here's the thing. Are you talking about going to them every night? I don't think that's going to be productive for you. I think if you want to work something out and you're like, hey, let me go fucking say this out loud.
I agree with you.
I think that's good. But yeah, at this point in your career, and there's still a lot of guys that are, our level in the game that still do mics. And I would do them up until I was getting paid not to. I was doing, weekends, and I was getting enough club work to not have to go to the open mics. But if I didn't have spots, which I'm fortunate enough now to get,
right,
I would fucking go to the open mics, and I would still go. And people are like, why are you here? It's like, well, because I want to say this shit.
So if I don't have a show in a week, I go. But I will usually have at least 2 to 4 shows a week.
And if that's enough, then...
It is enough. It is enough, and also because of the way I do comedy, and you're similar. Our stand-up is very performance-based. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely true. Yeah.
I would love to hear you explain to the audience what that means relative to other comedians.
Well, here's what I noticed the biggest when I go to New York. Perfect example. A lot of New York comics, they tend to be, I feel like LA comics in general tend to be more performance-based. One, it's just like the atmosphere here. It's more, showy. This is what I broke it down to. We have bigger stages. We start off on bigger stages.
You're saying bigger stages as in larger audiences, or
no? I'm saying physically
actually
bigger
the
rooms,
real estate.
bigger real estate, and a lot of people come from, if they're in LA, they were an acting background or improv background or sketch comedy background, and then in New York you're so confined when you go and start in these open mics. You're literally like in these little under like basement rooms that the stage is literally this big. It's
so you think there's less room to be physical?
There's less room to be physical, and also it's like that's not the I don't know, the normal thing there. So everyone's very well written. You know what I mean? And it's not to say we couldn't be well written, but I like to have more fun and be like bigger and do more of act outs and shit like that.
But even compared to other LA comedians, everyone is different with how they're different. You're physical, but you literally do voices and characters, and you go into the audience. Like reading your stuff doesn't make me. There's pros and cons to this. The pros to it is other people can't do your material. Mm-hmm. The con is you're relying on you to do it a certain way.
Sure. But I always set out to have my show be an experience, to where like if you listen to it on an album, it doesn't do the same. That's why I haven't done an album per se. I have a bunch of bits that they hold up. I mean,
why'd you say per se? Have you done something that's an album not per se?
No, I'm just saying like when you hold the phone. I'm just saying when you do come to my show, I want it to be an experience. Right. I don't want you to be like, oh, I could have just fucking listened to his album in my car. I want you to be there and feel it.
Now, do you not want it to be that, or do you feel your skill set doesn't offer that as well as the other thing, so you don't do an album?
No, I have bits that you could listen to and laugh, because you don't have to be in the room to, when I do a character, even if it's an inflection in my voice or I change my voice.
Then why don't you want that on an album? You don't think it translates, or you just don't want that media?
I am, like you said, more physical, and I do a lot of stuff, facial stuff. Yeah. I'll really get into a character and embody that character. When I'm doing it, I think the experience is just better when you're watching it live.
That's what I'm saying. It's minutia, but this is something I've been thinking a lot about because I feel the same way. It's very hard to translate my show when you're not in the room, because a big part of what I do is tangible, the energy in the room, and the person on the couch watching it on the TV doesn't necessarily experience that. So I have been working a lot on, I can't make the people on the couch feel out the way I make the people in the room feel, but how could I manufacture a way to play with the energy on the couch? And works with both the types of bits that I do.
Hey, we're doing a podcast up here. Fucking people, I can just see them.
Hey, don't engage anymore. I don't want people to not like this balcony, There's been so many times that I've been doing stuff on this balcony where people come by and they're asking questions, and where I would normally say, don't eat oranges in the back seat, I then become what normal people do, and I go, hey, bud, because I don't want them to know where I live and then not like me. But what I was getting at with the performance stuff is I wouldn't mind having an album. All right, we'll be right back.
And my mother goes, yum, I'd love some onion petals. And my father goes, you're only saying that because she wants them. I went, Daddy,
I bet I know what you're
69
thinking. You're thinking, what's going on here? There's Rick's girlfriend, there's Rick's mom, they're on a couch, they're chatting, they look like they're having a good time. It's probably hilarious. Well, I got good news for you.
We all sit down. My dad divides up their French fries. They drink their little soda with their 2 fucking straws.
As opposed
This is an episode where my mom and Betty met for the first time back in October. It's a full-length episode with all the edits that you've come to love and adore, being a Glassman Bopper / TYSO Goblin. And on Patreon, we're going to be posting exclusive episodes every month. But that's not all you'll get on Patreon. Not only will there be exclusive monthly episodes, you'll also get live Q&As, shout out from me on the podcast, exclusive gear like the Goblin Gang sweatshirt. We also have a Discord community where I'm in there pretty much every day chatting with my goblins. And there's a lot of other things. If you want to see what is available, go to patreon.com/takeyourshoesoff. Or if you're on YouTube, click that exclamation point in the upper right and scoot do bubbity blue. Do you want me to stop talking about this?
Oh, no. The album talk is great. I mean, it's good. So what you're saying is your style, and you know what's so funny about you, Rick? I told you this a long time ago. If you did...
Well, then you told me already.
I already told you.
No, go ahead.
Hold the phone. If you did like this... Because, I've heard you say this before, too. Sometimes you'll be inconsistent, right? But if you did that one thing, and that's why I think like just trying to go up and hit these mics and hit like more, being out there more, and get into where you're like batting 1,000, like not 500 or fucking whatever. You're batting more consistently.
I figured that out years ago.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, I know. So it's like
I'm there. I'm a good comedian now.
Yeah.
It took me 10 years. I'm a good comedian now, and I'm still inconsistent, and I still miss. But the misses aren't the same thing where people are uncomfortable. We don't want him back. The misses are just, it's not a great show compared to something great. I'm just saying my skill set doesn't allow me to be consistent. I would love to get better at that. But the thing that I'm really good at is the same type of thing that you're really good at, which is very performance-based. And unfortunately, as a performance-based comedian, we rely on the energy that we have.
Sure.
And that's, for me, it makes it difficult to do 6 shows in a week for 45 minutes to an hour, because I'm human. I only have so much. That's how I feel about doing shows. I feel by doing 4 shows a week, I did it. I don't need to lift weights 7 days a week. And I want to know your thoughts on that.
I disagree. I mean, I do it the other way. So like, I guess I overtrain then, by your measure. Because I go all the time and I can't not go because I just feel like I haven't been doing enough. But that's just a mentality.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong. I think it's case by case. The only thing I think that's wrong is the judgment that I have felt, not specifically towards me, but toward the practice, which is, no, man, you got to do it every night.
I think that comes with just other comics not seeing you at the clubs all the time. So then, there's always that, like the work ethic thing. So they think that, because to a lot of people, it's not enough. Like you see Dom Irrera, how long he's been in the game and he's at the club every night. But that's not everybody. Everyone doesn't need to do it like that, Yeah,
and also, it's like on social media, I only think that you care about Black Lives Matter if I see you posting pictures of the protest or posting how much you donated. You could do shit behind closed doors.
And not say anything, yeah.
I work my ass off.
No, I know.
I really work
I feel
very, very hard.
All the shit you're telling me seems internal. Like, it seems like no one could care less either way, but you're making this a bigger issue with yourself.
No, that makes sense. No, this isn't an issue at all. This is a conversation I'm having because we're talking about stand-up, and as much as how many comedians I have on the show, I talk about stand-up. I've maybe talk about stand-up with a comedian on 10 episodes. I rarely do. And I just think it's behind-the-scenes information that, there's work to be had off stage as well. And I don't think, for me, I could burn out. I could do too much. I can't do more than 3 podcasts a week. Where did I lose you? How do we edit? Do we edit around it? Do you not? You don't have enough opinion.
I have plenty of opinion, but it's just like
you can disagree with me all you want.
I've told you I disagree with you, but I've talked about this so many times on so many different podcasts.
This type of conversation is boring. Then let's stop.
No, I mean it's all internal shit because it's however you feel about it. If you're saying you're fine doing other shit, then that's your journey. Like your journey is different than Gerard's journey, or when people compare, like, oh, this guy's got this and that, and I'm doing. It's all whatever you want to do. Like everything that I'm doing now, and like in comedy, is everything I asked for and everything I worked for. So the goals that I set, I've achieved them. So whatever goals you set, hopefully you've achieved those goals. I
have not.
So then that means the work is lacking.
Okay, well, if I could do 5 or 6 shows a week that aren't the open mic in front of 8 other comedians, I would be doing it.
You got to work to get those shows.
Yeah.
And that's the part of hanging out and being around, and then all, because dude, I would go and hang out even when I didn't have a set.
Amir, for 10 years, I'm at the Comedy Store.
I know, but
5 days a week.
I'm telling you, it's like what you do. It's like having a show. Did you ever have a show that you booked people and gave something to get something? It's all people. Comics all the time are like fucking. They want. And if you don't have any currency in this business, then nobody. Why would they give you shit? There's a billion other guys to give spots to. You know what I'm saying?
So that's where it comes about efficiency. You were somebody from the beginning when we first met, and I love to talk about meeting at the Haha. But you produced shows, you ran shows,
and that was
and
the
you
thing.
Hustled and worked your ass off.
And that was something that I became like, I had some currency in the game.
Yeah.
Like they were like, oh, dude, Amir, you want to do my show? And I'd be sure, you want to do my show. Now that was a swap.
Now that was a lot of work. Would you
Dude,
agree?
it was a ton of work.
A lot of time.
There you go. But then now that I had to do all that shit to get to where I'm at now, which is touring the country, doing clubs everywhere, doing all that bullshit. If you want to get there, you must do these things. Like there's a lot of shit you got to do.
So
that I didn't like doing. You think I liked waking up and fucking going to Hollywood Boulevard selling tickets?
Of course, man. I remember watching you. I remember I went with you a couple of times and was like, this isn't for me.
It's not for everyone.
So now here's the thing, and I'm feeling myself. I'm feeling myself being defensive in this, and that's okay. I just want to acknowledge that to let you know I know what I understand I'm giving this, and this is my truth, and that I'm okay with that.
Right.
I wasn't going out and producing my own show, and by the way, I tried it. It wasn't for me. You know, it's
Do you remember that time?
What?
We brought that party bus to the belly room.
Yeah.
What?
We got in trouble.
We got in big time trouble.
Yeah, we did a show at the Comedy Store, and we were putting a show together. There wasn't I don't even remember if it was our show.
No, it was in the belly room.
There was no audience.
There was no audience, so we're like, dude.
Oh, you know what it was? There was no show, and we said we could fill the room.
Right.
And then we went on Sunset Boulevard,
thinking we're doing the club a huge favor.
And we brought in a literal party bus of people who were just already drunk.
And we're like, you guys want to go to a comedy? And then we were in the barking mode, right? Like get people to come to the comedy club to watch us do comedy. You know, this is when we were doing shows at the Brew Co. and every open mic or whatever. And so we're like, dude, and they're like, yeah. At the time, Dean, the manager of the Comedy Store, would be like, dude, bring in whoever, because it's not what it was today. There wasn't people making, tons of money there. It wasn't sold out every night, so there's like empty rooms. So the belly room's empty. So I remember we walked up to Tommy and we go, Tommy, dude, we got the room full.
We did.
And
we did pack the room.
We packed the room out.
We had like 50 plus people in
with
there.
This party bus of hammered. I mean, out of their mind. And they all ordered a round of drinks, right? Because they go 2 drink minimum. And then everyone was pissed about it. But they ordered these drinks and like those big, fruity drinks and everything.
And not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with the fruity drinks. Anyways, they ordered these big old drinks, like a huge tab, right? And then what happened? They just
I don't know. I don't remember. I just remember it didn't go well. I remember they stopped the show because they were being obnoxious and like yelling and maybe going up on the stage. And because they canceled the show, people left and people didn't pay their bill.
No, nobody paid the bill.
Right.
The whole place walked out with all these drinks ordered. And then one guy was throwing up in the back of the room, and you and I had to carry him out.
Right, and clean it. We cleaned it.
We didn't carry the guy out.
Don't tell me I didn't try.
Yeah, you did try.
I did for a couple years. I was doing that stuff. But here's what I wanted to acknowledge. I didn't. And by the way, during this time, I'm not producing my own shows, but I am going to open mics and hanging out and going and staying to the Comedy Store until 2 a.m. to maybe get up, usually not get up. I'm doing all of those things. But during the day, when you're out producing and hustling, and it's hyperbolic to say nobody hustled more than you, because I only know the people I know. But out of all the people I know, nobody worked harder than you at that particular part of the game.
Sure.
You were going everywhere. You were doing the stuff that a lot of us were doing at night, but during the day, you were doing other things. And more power to you, and that's fantastic. I wasn't doing that, but I was doing other things. I was writing sketches. I was making videos. I was editing stuff. Not just this podcast, with John, with that guy and his friends since open mic days. I'm always trying.
But see what that led you to, which isn't a bad thing. It led you to being on a show, on
100%.
doing the Sixth Lead, doing all these things. That's what your intention and goal was in your career.
Yeah.
My intention and goal was I want to be a nationally touring comic, and now that's where I am because of the work I did. And the work I did correlates exactly to where I wanted to be, and that's what's happening with you. So you can't want one thing and then do the work of another.
So here's why I'm feeling defensive. It's because you're telling me I can't do this without doing this.
You just can't. I'm kidding.
But the truth is, I don't feel entitled to anything. There's a difference between being deserved and entitled. I would like to, and I've talked about this before, I'm not past at the Comedy Store. I think I know I deserve
I'm not past there either.
Yeah, we deserve to be past there. I'm not entitled to it. There are people who perform there who aren't that funny. There are people who are hysterical and don't perform there. It's just an obstacle.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
That's always. I mean, if you care about that, then you're going to be really like this game ain't fair. It's like it's never going to be fair. And if you're worried about that and like, oh, I don't get enough love here, it's like, dude, just go where they give you love.
Yes.
And then the gatekeepers change, and that's how the name of the game.
Bobby Lee told me years ago when I didn't like it because probably both of us, before the old booking manager, Tommy, got fired from the Comedy Store, we were about to get passed. I remember I have to imagine we were on the same place. Who knows when it was going to happen, but it was like, it just felt like, oh, I had my opportunity, and now the person that came in doesn't want me there. And at that moment, I was upset. I remember Bobby Lee told me, I'm paraphrasing, but everyone has their obstacles. Bobby wasn't able to do da-da-da-da-da-da. A lot of people don't have an agent or can't get to Just for Laughs or never got on a television show. I did these things. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, yeah, everybody has their obstacles. I get that. But by the logic of, well, you have to show up and you blah, blah, blah. No, you have to accept the fact that this gatekeeper doesn't want me there. I don't need to have resent for him, and it's not a fuck him by any means. It's just my energy and my time would be better served not hanging out there until 2 a.m. for 15 fucking years.
So you're saying that the Comedy Store is the end all be all? It's not.
No. I'm saying that
there's other clubs to go hang at. There's other clubs that will like you and
that's
give
what
you
I'm
time.
saying.
Like the Improv loves you.
Yeah, I go to the Improv.
Yeah,
I
that's
get
what
up.
I'm saying. So it's like there's other places to spend your time if the goal is to become a comedian that's touring. That's all it is. So, if you want, I'm sure you could have done it if you wanted to put the time in and go and do that stuff. You decided to spend your time doing sketches, and which you're fucking amazing at. And you've, booked a bunch of stuff. You've acted in a bunch of things, and that's because the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, so stand-up, my goal is I always want to do stand-up and never want to stop. I want to create my own stuff, and I want to direct, right? And that's what I've been working toward. You want to be a stand-up comedian. That's what you're going toward. It doesn't mean that you also can't do this stuff, and I can't do this stuff.
Right.
And my inspiration to starting this podcast, which, by the way, I was doing podcasts. I should have done it before because I started my first podcast almost 5 years ago. I never put it out. I never cared. When I saw what podcasts were doing for people, what Santino able to do theaters now, Theo, who wasn't able to get spots places really, who's now doing what he's doing. Going to the clubs didn't feel the most. I mean, going and hanging out like I'm fucking 23, and not getting up. It just wasn't working for me anymore.
Yeah.
I started doing this because, and the main goal of this podcast, and I'm thankful, thank you, Boppers and Goblins, that it's starting to move is I could maybe sell tickets now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all it is. All the clubs care about at the end of the day. So there are different ways to get to where we're saying, but it's like you could be a dope actor that's in a bunch of shit and then people will come see you then. But it's like you better be good when you do the show when you go to the city.
100%.
Because they'll never come back to see you again.
I've seen it many, many times with Vine people or actors who have a following who now want to start doing it.
Right.
And I'm being defensive again because just because I didn't produce my own shows and I don't hang out at clubs until 2 a.m. anymore, I've worked my ass off as a comedian.
Right. No, but you just took a different path. I'm just saying, like, you're going to be ready when that opportunity comes, and you're going to have to cut your teeth as a headliner. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do an hour. Tough. That's what I'm saying. So I've been like training to be this headliner.
And I've watched you do. I've watched out of all of my peers, I've seen you do an hour. Eric Griffin, I've seen the most because I went on the road with him and I watched every show, and I love him. I've seen you do, I think, 3 hours. I've never seen anybody I know do 3 hours before, because when you do it at the Improv, I love it. Mm-hmm. That is something that you have earned that I haven't yet. If I have to do 20 minutes, I could do a 20 minute. I know what my 20-minute special is.
Sure.
I could and I will do an hour, but it's not. Anybody who comes out and sees me, I just want to let you know now, I'm trying to figure out my hour. I don't know how to do it yet. And it is very intimidating. But
you're a good enough performer and you put in the time enough to be able to withstand that, even if you had to fill in, and then like there's guys like Bobby that don't do the full hour, like when you're doing a headlining show. So it's like not that you have to, but just give them a fucking hell of a show when they came out to see you so that they want to come back for more. That's like all the goal is.
Yeah, and I've done it enough. It was good enough. But what you do, and you were touring before comedians at your level were touring, because you were pretending to be your own agent, and you were making shows around California, and just going on the road and producing shit.
Because I wanted to get to the higher level. So I was like, okay, this is what I do. So if I can't get booked at a club now, let me go do this show in Fresno at a fucking, Thai restaurant.
Yeah, tell me the story of you being your own agent or manager or whatever it was.
Yeah, so I used to have this, because I would be like, how do I get booked other places, and how do I negotiate? Because sometimes people would hit me up like, hey.
This was a while ago, right?
Oh, yeah, this is years ago. This is my first year of
I
comedy.
would love to, could you pretend that this is you a while ago?
Excuse me?
Look to camera. Snap.
And I just became my own agent, And I made this character up. Jason Dunning was the name that I picked because I thought that would make more sense.
More sense than
just Amir or another Middle Eastern name. I picked a white guy name, Jason Dunning.
Relevant. Right? You felt that a white person would maybe get a better response
a little more serious
than a POC?
Absolutely. And so what I did was I would email, like if someone requested me to do like a private party or something, which I would get a lot of those requests after I would perform somewhere. They'd be like, hey man, do you do private parties? And at the time I'd go, for $500 or something. And I'd say, hey, my rate is this as Jason. I'd be like, hey, let me talk to Amir and we'll see what we can do, And I remember one time I responded to the email in my own email, but as Jason. And so it would the jig was up, So I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, oh, whoa! I had opened his email on accident.
Did that matter? I mean, would anyone really care?
They probably knew. I mean, what the fuck was a guy, 2-year comic doing with an agent that was? And I was so, I'm sure the verbiage and the words I was using wasn't sounded super professional.
Do you think it actually helped you at all?
I don't know. I think it did because in my whole career I never liked dealing with the money stuff. You know what I mean? That's why I have a manager and that's why I have an agent or whatever. It's because. Dealing with the money, when it's your deal, it just seems weird,
Right.
And at the time, it seemed crazy, but it just made sense. I was like, this is just another thing I got to do on the way up. Whatever. This will be a story I tell later on Rick Glassman's podcast. And cut to now, here I am today. And, I'm doing exactly everything that I wanted to do. I'm touring. I do, weekends whenever I want. You know what I mean? I got a manager. I got my agent. And everything, every year I do, I go further and further and I'm getting better and better. Every single year I'm getting better and better. But back then, and now it's those were all part of the steps that you had to do. This doesn't make sense.
It does. We'll keep it all in. It's fine.
You're fucking.
Dude, for people at home, what you just saw, it was 4 hours into the making. It plays. The only thing that I don't like was one of the snaps you weren't looking into camera, and I feel that one of the hand movements wasn't in the right place, but it'll be good.
Who gives a shit,
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about, where the amount of energy that is spent on this that looks like at home. This is a perfect analogy to stand up for me. What you see at home that is going to end up being 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever this is, was so long, not just with us, but in the editing and the preparation and all of the time I spend on this that people may not see. I don't have time to produce my own shows. Okay?
But it's not about that, Rick. It's not about that, Rick.
What's not about it?
It's about doing it because you love it. Then it makes it, you know what I'm saying? You like doing this, I assume. No?
Yeah, I'm starting to resent it a little bit, but I love the product.
But the final product looks so good. And it's dude, that's why, I realized when I started the podcast, I'm like, fuck, I do the editing and stuff like that. I do it all myself. And it takes way longer than a normal person that's an editor or whatever. But it's kind of fun to do, you know? And then you go, oh, okay, cool, I'll cut this out, put this in.
What's the point you're making?
I'm just saying, it's if you're not having fun doing it, then don't do it. No one's forcing you to do this podcast unless you're having fun doing it. Get defensive and...
Wait, I don't understand what you're saying. I agree with you. Do what you want to do. And
yeah. So I think that's what it is. It's a lot of people are like, what do I have to do? They want this, or, whenever people talk to me like that, what the industry wants, or they, I always feel like...
Could you give me an example of
Yeah, exactly. They go dude, they want you to do this. They want your podcast to be like this, or...
Oh, you're saying people you're saying people taking notes based on trend instead of their
trend,
art.
Instead of I want to do it like this, or whatever,
right.
The trend became if you want to say some of the alt comedy started to become really popular, kind of when we, probably 3 or 4 years into what we were doing when our stand-up started.
You're saying people East Side, mustache,
Yeah, East Side, whatever, like if you want to call them like the more alt shows, that became popular, and I think there was a trend away from like the club comic is what the industry didn't want that anymore or something, it turned into be like people that were getting the looks were all, on the East Side or whatever, like,
But you're saying more main stage.
Yeah, more main stage, what you were doing, a club comedy act, or, I don't know, you could be...
But the point you're making that I would love for you to stick on, because I want to know why you even brought that up. You're saying people not doing what they're told to do.
People doing what they're told to do, what their manager told them to do, or whatever. I just feel like that just takes away from your...
I could tell you this as a working actor. Do whatever your manager tells you to do. Trust me. Whatever a manager tells you to do, you should do. Let's say a manager tells you to be a king. Are you not going to do it? Look, your energy's low. It seems like you don't want to be having this conversation. But if you become a king...
it's my royal to be feeling pristine and prestigious.
I picture these are the words you're using when you're acting like an agent.
Exactly. Jason Dunning is telling me to be the king of all agencies.
For the people who aren't watching this on YouTube and just listening, we've been doing costume changes and shaving and outfit changes, and Amir is now dressed as... Who is that? What king is that?
King Richard IV.
All right, so yeah, you brought it. Let me see what this character is.
It's not, dude. I just grabbed a couple things because we thought we were going to do something fucking fun.
Oh, you're not having a good time?
I was.
Until?
I just don't know what the fuck is going on, Rick.
Right.
I have no idea what's happening. You're looking at the camera, and then like you'll look down, and then you'll ask me something, but then we got to stop because you got to run over there. What the fuck is happening?
This is why my stand-up sucks.
I feel like an audience member at one of your shows. I don't know what's happening. Now I'm in a king outfit.
So
hold on, yeah.
which you brought, by the way.
But you told me bring some outfits. So I go, here, let me bring some costumes, and you're like, put this on.
You did suggest bringing outfits.
Yeah, why not?
Exactly.
It's fun.
So here's I think this is a perfect example of why my earlier years, especially of stand-up, disconnected from audiences. It was because I'm coming it from the point of view of what it will look like pieced together, but an audience at a live show isn't edited. So
I'm seeing too much behind the curtain. I'm seeing way too much behind the curtain. Yeah. If I knew it was like this, I would have not brought one outfit. You go, I thought it was going to be easy. I literally thought it was going to be the snap of a finger.
Well, then what?
I just shaved my mustache.
When you snap, how do you think you get into the outfit? You don't actually snap. You have to.
I've been watching it. It looks seamless.
Well, yeah, and this will look seamless. People don't realize that this is actually day 2 of filming.
We've been filming for 1 month.
So I could tell with you when you're out. When you're like, you want to be in play mode. And you obviously, like you said, you talk about stand-up on podcasts.
All the time,
you don't want to
dude.
talk about it anymore. Then guide the conversation different, because I was very into that. And
were you? Because I've done it so much. And with a friend like you that I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Other than the last 6 days of shooting this. I just want to have fun. I haven't been out of my house in a while. I haven't been around my close friends in a while.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we start over? Okay?
Yeah.
Are you feeling better?
I feel great, dude. I really do. I felt it getting a little negative, but it was just because I didn't want to be talking about stand-up the whole time. I don't know. I feel like I talk about stand-up so much and everything, and it's like, I don't know. I guess you're right, though, Maybe your audience doesn't.
You're saying you're right because in between 2 days ago when we did that most recent snap, I was talking to Amir about, and I was feeling, and it's funny, actually, because at the beginning of this, which we didn't really explore enough, was you feeling that you're a people pleaser, and within that, I think it makes sense of a character trait, and forgive me if I'm wrong, and I beg your forgiveness if I am, but because you didn't want to upset me, or more specifically, feel that I was upset with you or not liking what you were doing, you didn't want to, you just were kind of going. I
was going with it without being 100% in it, and that's what I do a lot, I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll agree to something, and then here we are, And
it wasn't the costume changes. You were saying, I don't know where we are. It wasn't that. It was a stand-up talk. The stand-up talk was
well,
taking
it was
you
that
out.
with the costume changes. I didn't know where we were at.
Yeah.
You know, when you do this, where are we?
That's fair. That's I know.
Who are we?
I know where we're going.
But who are we?
Yeah. Sure. But how are you feeling now?
I feel good. Inside, I feel good.
I did feel, and then I want to conclude the stand-up, maybe, but at least that portion of it, by saying...
What was the point of the stand-up talk in the very beginning?
Well, it came from originally, and we'll rewind. You know, imagine I guess I'll go back into our clothes. Was that being performance-based versus not having to expel so much energy on stage. What took me a long time to get to was realizing the thing that I feel that I'm best at and that I enjoy the most is this big performance thing. But I, as a human, cannot do that every single time. Sometimes you're not in the mood, right? So it took me a while to develop another thing, which is I could just also go up and kind of what this podcast is. A lot of it is costume changes, and a lot of it is just talking. I have now gotten to the point where I could talk. I wanted to speak with you about specifically the performance stuff and how the performance stuff and how just finite energy is. And I wanted to get into that with just energy in general and being forced to be home. For me, I'm not exercising. I'm not even leaving the house. By doing less than ever, I actually have less energy than ever. And my endurance for doing things has gone down. And you're somebody who is like that with me, but
I am like that. No, I mean, I'm the same way. I'm at home, but I just filled my time with other things, like starting the podcast or doing other,
What made you start a podcast now? Was it because you had the time, or
I had the time? I had a studio that I made in my apartment.
Why didn't you have time before? What were you doing?
I made excuses. I was just like, oh, I don't have time, and then I just would come home off the road, and I'd kind of be like, so burnt out that I'd be like, oh, okay, I just wouldn't put the energy into that.
That's what I'm talking about, and there's nothing wrong with that. You technically had time in the day. But after going on the road and doing all of this stuff, there's a finite amount of energy that we have.
Sure.
And I know for whatever reason you don't want to talk about this, but I love this stuff. Mm-hmm. The amount of energy I expel doing the type of stand-up that I do, if I were to also hang out at the club until 2 a.m, not getting up, I wouldn't have time, I wouldn't have energy to do all the other stuff I'm doing. And it's an interesting balance. It's a tough thing to do.
Right.
For whatever reason, you don't want to talk about that. I'm totally fine with it. And we're going to cut to a sponsor later. But until then, yeah, I can't, I don't have the ability to just move on when something's in my head. And I'm so curious where you are. You're somebody that when you do a bit in public, which we do a lot, especially when we were younger, we go to a club, we feel here's the time to show people where our value is and to make friends. And the truth is, I don't know if anybody in our class annoyed people more than you and I. When you would do a bit that bombed, you would kind of double down and do a very physical bit.
Yes.
Could you explain what that means to the audience?
Oh, yeah. Like if I'm in a circle, for example,
and
we're all talking, cut to a circle. That's where circle is. So if I'm in a circle and I do a bit, it doesn't work. I'll start like doing something physical where it's me touching somebody or doing something like that to get a more of a response, right?
Yeah, it's instinctual.
Yeah,
it's not even a joke. You don't even then I do a physical bit. You just grab somebody and go, "Hey, I'm a booger," just like
I don't know.
Yeah, whatever your version of that is.
Sure.
And it's just I always liked it because not that the physical bit made me laugh, but I know what it's like to feel I messed up and to see somebody mess up and try to dig their way out by grabbing someone they already bothered and going, yeah. It's just like, fuck, I've been there.
Don't swim close to a drowning man, they say.
Because you don't want to be able to smell him.
Exactly.
Right. So by that standard, I mean, this, we'll get to a sponsor.
Dude, there's a lot of shit going on. I'm telling you right now.
I hear you.
There's shit going on behind me. I could barely fucking hear some of the shit you're saying. And I'm trying to focus. I'm so glad I'm not inside.
I raised your levels. How's this?
That's a lot better. There's a lot of traffic going on.
I know.
You know, we're out here on the street.
I know.
And so I'm trying to focus. There's shit going on. I have ADD. It's
Well,
all
why are
shit.
we an hour plus in before you tell me that you can't hear me?
Because I'm a people pleaser, man.
Yeah, right?
For me.
Man, people pleasing is a fucking worst.
It's the worst thing.
It's the most. It's such a selfish act because people are just like, now you didn't hear me for an hour. Who are you pleasing? But yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about how we met?
Let's do it. But this podcast it's the exact same as our friendship or a friendship with you.
Go on.
There's a lot of times where I don't know what the fuck is happening. And you got to understand that.
I
Like
do.
when you go like that, and I know you know what's happening, but I don't know what the fuck is happening.
I understand.
So when you go like that, and then you cut to whatever it is you're going,
Sure.
then you go, there's going to be a sponsor. I don't know what the fuck is happening.
So, Amir, check this out. When I snap and I explain what it is, whether it's cutting to me changing an outfit or you changing an outfit or us going to a sponsor or turning the camera upside down or whatever, you can't visualize it, right? But you don't have to visualize it. Just go with the flow, man.
Sure.
Go with the flow, baby.
Let's do it, baby.
Would you explain to me what that means when people do that with a what is it called when they do that?
This is old tradition.
What's it called though? So why do we do this?
Because, dude, it's just commonplace, right?
Yeah, but what are the
before-
origins?
Well, before coronavirus, there was a thing called the Islam al-Alid.
Did you wink to me to let me know that you were making this up?
No, not whatsoever. I just touched my eye a little bit.
Okay.
And so you put this over, and now this was in place of if you were to go outside, because this is impure.
Yeah.
That's impure. So if you wore
For men and women?
for men and women, so like this was a sign of if I'm attracted to somebody, I'd go. But if I do this,
No. Answer this honestly.
I can't be honest.
I want to know what that is. Why can't you be honest?
I don't know
And
what
here
this
it
is.
And here, by the way, if anybody made it to this part of the podcast, this is where it is.
I don't know what this is.
Let me tell you something. I do. Everything up to this point, here's what it is. You are uncomfortable being honest. You are.
That's not true. Okay, so wait. When you're asking me about this, I don't know what the fuck this is. This is a jalaba. I got it in, where was I? In the Middle East somewhere. I was in, I want to say, hold on. Where the fuck was I? Oh, I was in Dubai. I got this. So this is, I don't even know really.
No, but you have to what is it called? And I don't remember for whatever reason. The mask that
so the women wear that.
what is it called?
It's called a hijab.
Hijab, thank you.
Yeah. So it's called a
Speaking
hijab.
of hijab, to get that to come out of you was quite a hijab. So I understand women wear it to hide their face because it's almost like hiding cleavage. It's like you're showing too much.
Yeah. So when you go outside, the more conservative the society is, the more they're covered up.
Do men have to do that as well?
Dude, I don't know anything about this shit, so I don't know.
Why
I mean,
not?
this is the get up, but I would imagine this is because
Is that not from where your parents are from?
Not from Iran. No, we don't wear all this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is from Dubai. But then there's like certain things, right? There's like certain different regions will wear different outfit colors.
Whatever, dude. If you don't know much about it, let's not get into it.
That's what I was. That's why I got uncomfortable because I don't know, and I'm like, fuck, what am I gonna say?
My better instincts are telling me to move forward, but my truth is, and here I am not going with my instincts, there's a lot more to, it's not about the hijab. I've known you now for, I guess, 12 years plus the 4 years that we've been doing this episode of the podcast. So I've known you for about 16 years. You do have a difficult time sitting in complete sincerity. And I don't know if that's with everybody.
No.
That might just be with me.
I'll tell you, it's with you, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
In our friendship, there's been some moments where we've wanted to get serious, and I never know when you're doing a fucking bit or not.
Sure.
So I feel like I need to raise to the level of like your bit shit.
Yeah.
So then we can't have it because the moment I get sincere, you throw some fucking left field joke.
Right.
And so that's why I'm like, oh, dude, is he joking
Yeah,
or am
that's
I?
fair.
And that happens with a lot of people with you. So it's like when we're in something and then we start to fuck around, then I'm like, oh, I don't know if you're leaving it or you're continuing it. Do you know what I'm saying? Even when you were telling me like, oh, your energy's down or whatever, I'd be like, oh, is he fucking with me?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's
so
fair.
it's always like, I don't know where, and especially when, that's why when you asked me to do the podcast, I was like, I'd rather do it in the room right? I'd rather do it in the fucking room.
In the room, or you mean in person, like
in
this?
In person, where it's like, dude, this is so, you know me, and like, I'm like fucking, if something doesn't work, so I'm so far removed. I feel like this is if I was doing stand up and there was 3 rows missing in the front, which is probably going to be happening now because
why this is like
it's
that?
So disconnected.
You're saying you and I right now?
Absolutely.
So a couple things I'd like to acknowledge on that. First of all, what you're saying about not knowing if I'm serious or not, I have gotten my whole life. And unfortunately, you're one of my best friends who I don't ever see anymore. And over the past probably 4 years at least, we only see each other at clubs when that happens. I have, and I don't want to be boring on this podcast because this is what I talk about all the time, so about 4 years ago, have come into a new level of self-awareness, making sure the cameras are still going, where a lot of this has changed for me. And I become aware of what you're telling me, and it has been so much better. It's been so much easier for me to connect with people, and what I've learned is them to connect with me more specifically. So you're coming from a place of you have not been conditioned with what our relationship is, and I respect that. That being said, you are the type of person who, if something misses, you grab on. You even said, I never know if he's serious or not, so when he's not, I have to heighten. Your instinct is to heighten. So, yeah, that makes sense that now we are playing something. The issue that I have with this idea of not knowing if you're serious or not, and I take responsibility for my side of it, and I have learned tools to deal with it. For example, communicating this way is, and I've said this on podcasts before, jokes and sincerity are not mutually exclusive. I want to be able to say, hey man, how you been? And care. And you tell me. And then go, hold on one sec. And now we don't have to go into cartoon land. That could just be its own little thing. Now, that's not the best joke in the world, either as grabbing someone and say, I'm a booger. But I'm just saying, I am comfortable sitting in multiple pockets.
But it's very hard for the person you're dealing with to know when it's a joke or when it's serious. That's what
I would argue that if you never met me, now granted, we couldn't take all the snap stuff away because it's a thing to the podcast on its own, which has a new level of difficulty. And I don't do that this much with everybody. Take that aside, I don't think you'd be feeling, I think there is a bias you have toward this relationship and our communication where you're assuming things that I don't believe are there.
Well, that you said it perfectly. You said that we don't see each other much in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I've grown in ways that are so different than what our relationship is. So when I came here, I took our relationship back to 4 years ago or whatever, 5 years ago. When we used to hang out every fucking night.
Now we're going to put a kid there,
See, the moment I get sincere with you, that's what's happening. See, it's like this. So this podcast is frustrating me in a way that I've never been frustrated on a lot of podcasts, and I've done fucking Alex Jones's.
I guess it's a burn to him, but I don't understand what that means.
It's a burn, dude. It's a total burn, man. And I've never done his podcast, but you didn't get my joke because we haven't hung it out in 4 years.
But you're allowed to do jokes without it being confusing. Dude. Like the me going to a kid thing, I did that because I wanted to give an example of it after. And even then, I do a kid thing, and now you're trying to heighten it. Like, I'm allowed to do jokes.
You're not allowed.
I'm allowed to do, and I'm allowed to do jokes without feeling the obligation that the person across from me has to then become a joke in that moment too. That, you have to take responsibility for the uncomfort that you get when I say now there's a kid. You could either...
Well, no, because it's like you're not paying attention to what I'm saying, and then you go like this, and then I'm like, hey, man, I was just fucking being sincere there for a moment, and then you do this, and I'm like, hey, man, that takes me out of it. I told you I have ADD. I have fucking problems with, like, concentrating. I have problems with focusing. And then you do that shit, and I'm like...
You never told me that. Had I known, we would have done no costume changes.
Go back to it. I told you, man, I have ADD, and I have problems freaking concentrating and keeping focused.
Okay. So sure, that happens. That's a relationship thing. That's a frequency. You and I, while on one hand, performance mode, we are on a very similar frequency. But as all people do, they're different energies. And we know each other in this frequency so well and not this frequency, or excuse me, these other personality types that well, right? Sure. That's your fault. We'll be right back with another word from our sponsors. So make the right choice and visit Marshall Carpet One and Rug Gallery. And we promise, with more than 50 years as a family-owned business, we've got you covered. Amir.
So, dude, with us, always.
Yeah.
Always with
By the
us.
way, this is what I wanted this podcast to be. So it starts now. Like, I'm loving this conversation.
So this, you and I,
Yeah.
we've always had like a weird relationship, you know, where I love you. Dude, you stopped on the side of the road. This type of shit bothers me so much, but I know you have to do it.
What?
Because I'm talking to you, and then you do this, but it's part of your thing.
No, it's not right. I explained it beforehand. I told you that unfortunately.
Oh, I know. But while we're doing this, I'm going to be checking my car because I left like a little bit. So if you see me go like that, I'm just checking to see if my car
But Amir,
is okay.
Amir, you're having a problem with the fact that I edit these podcasts, and sometimes I notice, it happened once on this with my camera at the beginning. Fuck, the camera was out for like 8 minutes, and I don't have it. So unfortunately, with the production setup I have right now, you're going to have to deal with some logistics, which I warned you about. When you're on set, sometimes you're acting opposite somebody, and because of the positioning and the lighting, that person can't be there, and you have to look at an X on the camera.
I'm just telling you, it's fucking with me right now.
I understand it's fucking with you.
So when I'm telling you something, all I ask, check the camera after the fucking thing.
Yeah.
Check the camera after I make my fucking point when I'm making eye contact with you.
You got it.
If I go like this, maybe look. Let's try it.
Sure. I feel like I've been doing a good job of when to check, but it's distracting. As I told you at the beginning, I'm sorry. Let me warn you again. During this podcast, unfortunately, because I didn't get the GH7s, I have to look to make sure that this train wreck of a fucking conversation is being recorded, so I have video. And if you have a problem with that, I apologize, and we'll have to do what we're doing now and take a break. So,
I can do this.
Dude, the place that you're at right now, I can't explain to you how well I understand it.
What do you mean?
I understand the place that, just being like, because I know this podcast and have these conversations with people, I am 100% unaffected right now.
I know you're not.
But I understand that you are.
Oh, 100%.
Probably, you're also outside. You're maybe hot because you're wearing some fucking outfit. You're out.
Buddy.
And I'm sorry
there's fucking bees flying. I mean, there's bees flying around, wasps. I don't know if I'm going to get stung at any point. I've been out of water for fucking 45 minutes.
Then ask me for water.
I've been out of fucking water for 45 minutes.
Stop being a people. Just say, I need more water.
I got stung 3 times. I didn't want to say anything. I'm a people pleaser.
Give me the cup. Actually, I'm going to give you a new cup.
I can't do it.
I know, man.
I can't do it.
What your fucking problem is.
I just can't do it. I'm not doing it. Oh, that's much better. Rick, buddy, old pal, dude, how have you been?
Don't worry about it, all right? I don't want to do any fake fucking conversations.
How you been, man?
Good enough.
Have you been good?
Yeah, let me fill my coffee, actually.
Thanks for having me over, dude.
You sure you don't want coffee?
People pleaser. I was dying for a water, man. Thank you for asking, because I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah, I have a metaphor I'd love to give.
Please.
When you're thirsty, it's not in your head. You're physically affected by it. Whether that just means you're feeling low energy, your mouth is dry, you're dehydrated, whatever the thing may be, that actually exists. But the psychology of not asking for the water is the same part of the mind that doesn't like that I looked to the thing. And what I mean by that is, it's distracting. You have to stop the conversation to ask for water.
Right.
And
Hold on 1 second. So that, when I ran out of water, I go, okay, now I'm thinking about the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's in my head.
I know.
And I'm going, okay, I'd like some water. And then now when we got to that level of where we got to, I go, oh, let me give you a couple examples of what's going on out here.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. So am I going to stop you and say there's bees out here?
If you're distracted by bees, or
there's bees out here.
But let's.
There's a ton of bees out here.
I'm sorry that sucks. I didn't know that I had a bee problem, to be honest with you, ever.
And now I'm supposed to sit here.
We could bring you back to your studio, and finish this over Zoom. Are you really upset by the bees right now?
No, I was playing.
'Kay.
But see, you couldn't tell I was joking, but that's our friendship.
But that's okay. I'm just asking. Everything, I do see the bee now. Everything is okay.
I'm not supposed to be mad.
And what it's supposed to be.
I'm not supposed to be mad?
I want to talk about the water for a sec.
That was a fucking thing. You didn't know that was part of the thing, like add to it, da-da-da-da. I could have made up 5 other things.
Amir, you wanted water, right?
I could have used water.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, you feel that you would rather be thirsty than stop the flow of the conversation. For better or worse, that's you. On 2 ends of the spectrum, had I said to you, hey, buddy, I know you're hungry. I'm so sorry, but the truth is I really don't want any food in here. And the orange, instead of just saying, hey, man, I told you not to eat, I could learn to be, instead of being direct, kind of like fade it in a little bit.
It's a cultural difference, too. It's a very much a cultural difference.
I will say, though, that I would much rather stop the conversation and say, hold on a second, I need a glass of water, because I'm not worried about upsetting you there. I am fine checking the camera. I already told you, hey, man, this is
but I was good either way.
Okay.
I could have been good either way, but now when you asked, like, whatever, and I was adding on to it, that was going to be one of the things I added to the list.
Sure.
But I'm good either way. I didn't need to have water.
Okay.
Do I like it? Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Does that make sense or no?
Sure.
Are there bees out here? Yeah. Am I bothered by them? No. Would I prefer there not to be bees? Sure.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Is this not making sense, Rick?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's at this point, there's no conversation to be had because you're defending the water instead of hearing the point, which is...
No, I heard the point. And I do that. I definitely do that. I'll be like, oh, I won't
And that
ask
doesn't just get in your way.
It gets in a lot of people's
It gets
ways.
in everybody's way.
Sure.
And it might not even be on a conscious level. If we didn't talk about this, we may have not realized, whether it's the water, it's the bees, it's the costume, it's talking about stand-up, whatever the fuck it is, by not acknowledging the thing, a resentment comes.
Sure.
And by, oh, Rick snapped to a kid, so now I had to do this big bit. And whenever I'm around Rick, I'm exhausted because I have to do so many bits. No, you don't.
I do.
But you choose to, subconsciously maybe, but you don't have to. There is a level of discomfort that you have. But
then it's not, yeah, exactly, because you want to be a part of the joke. You want to do, I want to be on the same page. If you're doing a joke, I want to know that I'm getting it.
Yeah.
And there's a part of you that doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
That if the person gets it or not, which I admire, actually. I like that.
But why do you care?
Because it's like, dude, if they don't get the joke, then I'm just doing the joke, and it's not for everyone.
Who can't move on? Then move the fuck. Who gives a shit? It would be like if I have a group of friends who are walking across the street and I wave to them and they all see me and they go, hey, bro. And then it's like, awesome. What a cool connection. But if I wave to them and they don't get it, if they don't see the wave, whatever.
Oh, you were talking apples and oranges.
Well, don't eat either of them in the car. And that joke that I just made that you laughed at.
I liked it.
You laughed.
I got it.
I
got it.
And there, now you had to do a bit. You couldn't just be in the audience.
You just did a fucking bit. This is exactly why. I'll tell you something from back in the day for the audience to know. You were doing an improv group. You didn't invite me because of this.
I don't remember, but I believe you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it.
Did I leave you out?
You left me out.
Did you tell me that you wanted in?
Yeah, I did.
You said that you want to be in an improv group, and I said...
you said, nah, because, and then you said, and you gave an example
I believe
of like
that.
how we are. Yep. It was you, John, I forget who else.
John wasn't in it. It was me, Fahim,
okay.
Aristotle,
had your Middle Eastern
Sandy
guys.
Danto,
You had your Middle
and
Eastern
Esther
guy.
Bravitsky.
And you're like, no, Amir wouldn't be good in this because he'll do this, whatever.
Even though I don't remember exactly what it was, I do believe you, and I know for sure I didn't tell other people Amir wouldn't be good at this. I do believe that I told you, not that you wouldn't be good at it, but if I didn't connect with playing with you in that way, then I don't want... Yeah, and that's the truth.
Yeah, and that's what's happening here.
Yeah, but you know what? And maybe I'm wrong because I'm in this from a place of I'm somebody who, the past 4 years of my life, this is all I think about. So this stuff gets my fucking dick hard.
I know.
But if it's something that may make people uncomfortable because they're reading how you feel or projecting how they feel, whatever, then I apologize and check out episode 32, Dad and Teddy 2.0. But I genuinely... Did you hear that?
I've been hearing it all fucking day.
What was
pal.
that? a car blowing up?
I'm on the fucking freeway.
I am enjoying this conversation, and I hope some part of you is as well.
I'm having a blast, Rick, and I hope that people don't think I'm being all fucking weird. And I was trying to do a good point of listening to you. It may look like I had low energy in the beginning of this thing. I fucking love you more than a lot of the people that I know in this fucking town.
What a funny, honest compliment.
You're one.
I love you more than a lot of a lot of
people. No, but I'm being really honest.
Feel
with
the
you.
same way.
So it's very distracting, especially my personality, dude. There's a lot of shit going on out here, and that's why I was hesitant to do it out here. Blah blah blah.
Well, I apologize. I could appreciate how
dude, I
distracting
love you, Rick, and that's why I was like, dude, I would love to hang out with you more often. You live in the valley. I live over there.
If you lived in the valley, I think we would see each other all the time.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's a shame, but in LA, when you live somewhere, you might as well go to fucking Germany. You know, it's like so
Snap
far.
to Amir in Germany. I'm joking. Relax.
You fucking.
Amir, how are you on time? Do you mind talking? Because I'm really.
I like this. I actually like this.
All right, good. So I want to talk to you about something about when you laughed when I said the apples and oranges joke. That it's something that I learned recently, and I even talked about this on Santino's podcast. So I want to cut to a clip, and I'm done editing. But here's what it is. Here's something that I learned that is like a hack into being happier and dealing with people, especially comedians. And I'm not saying you don't do this, just I'm talking for myself, something I've learned. It's okay to be in the audience. And what I mean by that is, if you say something funny, I could just be in the audience, I could laugh at it, and not feel the need to add on to it, which not only does it make it better for me, because now I'm not working, I'm just like, fuck, he's funny. It also, it lets something be, and then we move on. Does that make sense? So if you were comfortable...
So I'm trying hard not to get defensive here.
Go ahead. Because
we're in a conversation, right? We're in a conversation. We're on a podcast.
Right, with people watching us.
With people watching
Performing. Right.
And so we are the players. So I'm not in the audience technically. So in my head, I go, oh, you got to add to this. And sometimes maybe I'm not the greatest improviser, bro. Like, you know, especially with a guy like you. Like, there's other people. I think there's two different. I think we're the same performance-wise. Do you understand? We're the same performance-wise, and that's why it's kind of hard to put us on stage at the same time. We've even done it when I was headlining the last show.
I remember.
You're like, bring me up. I'm like, cool. And ideally, I'm like, dude, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
And then we get up, and it got weird because, you know,
I agree.
It's the same shit that we're doing now. And that's just... There's some guys that are better straight men, and there's some guys that are better fucking color. There you go.
Yeah. So here's what you said. You said you're a player. You can't be in the audience. And
not that. I said in this scenario.
In this scenario,
I could sit in the audience and watch a fucking comedian and laugh my ass off.
But
not in this scenario.
And if you're ever able to get to the point where you can be in the audience in this scenario, it will benefit you. It's what listening is. And I talk so much. I'll never do this. I want to cut a highlight of how many times I say, am I talking too much? When I know the answer is yes. I get it. I over-communicate. I will tell you with certainty, I'm present and I am always listening. And if I'm not, I'll tell you, sorry, I have to look at the camera, right?
So now, when I was listening, you told me I had low energy. I was literally sitting here going like this. And I've been sitting there and going like this, and then you go, Amir, you have low energy. That even put me in more of a negative space.
Yeah, man, believe me, I get what you're saying, and that's why I had the conversation, which was edited out with you, because I didn't want to put that into this. There's no problem with low energy. Stephen Wright has low energy.
But my thing, like if I was to perform, is I'm a high energy guy.
But you don't have to be performing.
I know, and I'm not performing. I'm just saying, like, so when I'm sitting here, so my version of that is, and you read it as knowing me as a high performance or a high energy guy. I'm assuming you're reading me listening to you going like this, as I'm being negative, and I wasn't. I really was listening.
Amir, I have spent my whole life asking questions of why people are making the faces that they're making. And I could tell you, I went from never picking up on any signals to being a master at reading them. And you already told me that I was correct. I wasn't having first of all, there was no problem. It just is what it is. It wasn't that your energy was low. I was able to tell that you weren't connected. You were not enjoying the conversation. And because of that, I wanted to figure it out with you. I wasn't wrong. You were not like it. Even now, I could tell, and that's fine.
But that's me listening. So what I'm doing right now is me listening. Of course, I don't like how we got here.
Yeah.
I don't like how we got here. So now I'm listening to you, trying to complete shit in my head. And that's my face when I do it. And I'll be honest, like sometimes when I'm listening, it may look like I'm not enjoying my shit. And it's like a resting bitch face or whatever the fuck you call it. Yeah, I'm not, and I'm going like this, but I fucking still am enjoying being here and having this conversation with you.
When I said now, I didn't mean this face now. I'm saying even now I could tell you that earlier on is what I meant.
Okay. I thought you were saying even at this moment.
No, I can't read your mind, but after 30 minutes of like something's going on, I'm going to, I could ask you. I could say, I'd like a glass of water. Listen, earlier you said you're worried that you're coming off as defensive or blah, blah, blah. I'm fairly confident that anybody watching this is seeing this as Rick is too much.
No, because I honestly, this is your podcast. People listening to this know Rick is Rick, right? So it's how people interact with you that is the dynamic of what the show is going to be. So some people interact with you, they know how to interact with you, and you and I were too much of similar in a different way that it doesn't.
There's one thing that is that gets in the way of our communication, and it's literally the littlest thing, and we already hit on it. Is your words are, you don't know when I'm being serious or not, so you're basically, what's the word, like on call, like you're ready, like you have to.
And that's a shitty place to be.
And it's also unsustainable. Mm-hmm. Not only am I not in that place now, as a 35-year-old person on this couch today, we have been conditioned in all of our interactions of 90% of them being at a club where we're to be playing. Excuse me. Anyway.
Finish the point. This is going good.
The moment a person, and I say a person because I don't want you to feel this is on you, because this is myself included. The minute a person is able to wave to people across the street, and when they don't see the wave, or even worse, when they look over and they go, and they choose not to wave back and just give a little nod, to not let that change my moment. You know what I mean? And there's pros and cons to not caring what other people think. And we talked about this earlier with, I care what people think, but I'm not affected by it as much. To this day, I get terrified sometimes out of nowhere. Sometimes I need to go on stage. Sometimes I have no idea what I'm doing and I'm terrified. I will not let that stop me because I made that decision. You practice that, you're fine. Being in the audience just means, whatever, do your thing. If I don't get it, I don't care. And if I do care, I'll ask. I'll say, can I have some water? Or I won't. None of it matters. None of it matters.
I'm getting where you're going, but it's very fragmented and I'm lost. But I get the point you're making. I get the point.
Well, I'm getting what I get all the time is insecure of how much I'm talking about bullshit. So I hear you.
No, I get where you're going with it. It's just a little fragmented as far I'm trying to take it in, and I'm like, okay, I understand what you're saying. It's okay to be in the audience. It's okay. And I know that, and I've worked on being that way, like to where I'm okay with shit happening, or like, if I see a comment that's negative, it doesn't bother me like it used to when I was younger in the game. Like I would be like I'd see fucking a billion good comments, and then one guy's like, this guy sucks, and then I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Right.
And that would bother me. Just like if I waved to someone and they didn't, that would stick with me. And if the guy didn't wave back, I'd be like, what the fuck is that guy's problem? And so,
as if like he's mad at you about something.
Yeah, and then and even at the comedy club, like if like some other comic that I respect, I go, hey, what's up, man? And they kind of like look at me weird, and I'm like, oh, fuck, does that guy not like me? That's all that shit that I was like learning, like, oh, dude, that's not cool. Mm-hmm. And in this fucking quarantine, realizing, dude, that's just like shitty. Why am I like that? And then I just take an inventory and being like, God, I was just an insecure kid that fucking was an immigrant. And it comes a lot from just wanting to be accepted and wanting to be a part of something. That's what this is all about. And so when I can't be sincere or like get to a close friend to where they really know why I am the way I am, and it's not just, I have to be on all the time. That me being on all the time was the way that I learned to deal with shit when I was an immigrant kid. Like when I came here and I was like, if I just be funny, then people will like me, and that happened.
Yeah.
Or if I moved somewhere, and I lived in so many different places, and we never, Like my brother and I talk about this a lot. We never made choices for ourselves. So now it's like everything is.
What do you mean you never made choices for yourself?
Like we were 5 years old. We had to move to a new fucking. Did I just hear something turn off?
No. The wire. You're good. When you're 5 years old.
5 years old, dude. Moved from Iran. All my world that I know. Leave that. Come here. I don't even speak the language. That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
What it does to a kid. And then my parents are fighting all the time. They were, like we went from living this way to like, my grandparents are kind of well off. We're having good time and shit. Moving here to fucking in a little shitty apartment, and my parents are fighting all the time. And then they divorced, and then we have to go to my dad, and we didn't choose that, like you're supposed to stay with your mom or whatever. So it fucks you up, and you're just like, nothing is in my control. So when it's not in my control, I try to control it. Like that, you joking. I'm like, let me get in on this. Or that's why I grab, the attention, or I want, like, I got this too. Like, that's what I feel like I'm doing. And my brother and I talk about it, like how fucked up we are in that way. And that's what the people pleasing thing comes to. Like like growing up, I just wanted to be a part of the group, and I never felt like I fit in, I never felt like I fit in.
Right.
With just regular people shit. And that's why I found like with comics, everyone you can find, some similarities in your background or something that you're like, oh, that's why we were that way. That's why I was the class clown. Yeah. That's why I did that. You know what I'm saying?
So I understand.
It's those type of things that when you get two of us together, like two class clowns together, it's hard to fucking, do you know what I mean? Like be on the same page or whatever. Like you and John work so well together. Like your dynamic is just so good, Like he knows when to shut up and you to go on.
Well, we spend more time with each other.
Exactly.
We understand these layers more of one another.
Sure.
And have had a lot of these types of talks. And it doesn't change the fact that John is a only child and a child of divorce who dealt with alcoholism in his family. And even though he's aware of it, there are certain triggers that he will always have that he just has to check in with. Mm. I was on the phone with him the other day, and I was just doing a joke because my cousin, they're writing on this show, and they have to do it via Zoom. So my cousin, coincidentally, is now their babysitter. So she's there sometimes. So we were on speaker and doing a joke, and I said, Annabella, if you had to give John any type of criticism, doing a joke as John was talking about being a father and a man and working out, and clearly an improv game. And they were talking about how men are tough and we live in this patriarchal society and blah, blah, blah. I said, John, you're okay taking criticism, right? And John said, well, you know me, Rick, I am always okay with people giving me criticism. Like, even though in that moment he knew it was a game and was going to be fine with it, he still acknowledged the fact that I am not good at this. So even in this game, I'm letting you know this may upset me.
Right.
And it's so fucking layered, and people are so difficult. It's difficult to navigate, even if you know everything about you. And I would imagine, and I did know about you moving here, I didn't remember 5, but I knew it was when you were a kid. I knew you didn't speak the language. I would imagine most people in our acquaintance network don't know that about you. And it's not, you don't have to tell them that, but...
acquaintance network, maybe not, but like definitely.
I'm saying in the 200
friends,
comedians that know Amir by name and have seen you 50 times on stage. They probably, point I'm making is everybody has their moved here when they were 5 thing, and it takes us a long time to even know that about ourselves. I was like getting a little watery-eyed when you were talking to me about it, because even though I knew it, it wasn't in my head. Oh, right, that makes so much sense, is what I was thinking.
But we also have never had this conversation.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It's like we've never had this in a private conversation. Like we did it on a podcast, which is fine. It's like, but we never had this conversation.
Years ago, I do remember that we did. I remember this conversation we had and talked about how it was the first time we did it. This was a long time ago.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I knew about with your parents and the moving here. And, but yeah, man, I can't. You're good at waiting 45 minutes to ask for water. The second I'm thirsty, I have to say, I need water.
I know you do, and you're also a guy that can't sit in the back seat of a fucking car ride. It's like, that you do these annoying things that like people, and I do these things. I remember like when you'd come over and I wouldn't be ready, and you'd be like, dude, you just love people fucking waiting for you or something. Like, do you remember that? Mm-hmm. You'd like come over and then you were like, fuck, and then
it happened multiple times in a row.
Right.
And what I took from it was you liked having people over. So you were like, come on in.
Yeah, and then stay.
Yeah, and I was
still
like,
like that.
Yeah, and that's fine, but my expectations were what was directly spoken to me, which was, hey man, I'll be ready in 5 minutes. I'll meet you outside. And then 5 minutes, I pull up. 6 minutes, 7 minutes, you say, come on in.
Yeah.
And if you just said, hey man, I want friends to be in my house, it would have been like, I guess. But, I do remember that very well.
No, it was so funny that you said that though. You're like, no. You like came over because it's not the first time that I did that. With my friend group, they like know how I am. If I'm like, oh, I'm on the way, it's like I'm gonna be 5 minutes late or whatever the fuck. And so you came over. You're like, no.
I don't like when people lie to me.
You're one of my friends, only friends that would ever say something. Do you understand? Like, It's so weird. Like, other friends would be like, oh, cool, they just park and come in, and then we'd be hanging out or whatever, and maybe leave 10 minutes later. But that's, again, a Persian, I don't know if it's a Persian thing or what the fuck it is, but that's just the way that I am. My mom was that way too. And then, like, you're the first guy that was like, no, this is bullshit.
I felt that
I'm like, oh, wow. And so our relationship is kind of like that always, because you'll tell me some shit that normal people wouldn't say.
And I don't realize that is upsetting you. I mean, at this point in my life, I recognize that people think it's aggressive. But
I don't think it's upsetting. It's jarring.
Well, maybe you used the wrong word, but it affects you.
Yeah. It absolutely affects you, because you're like, oh, fuck, because everything I know about human beings, I'm like, oh, and our shit is so, Iranians are so like, no, here, please, water. Like, if I came over, I'd offer you water 25 times if you came
I offered
to my
you
house.
Coffee and water a whole bunch.
You did in the beginning, and it was my but that's another thing culturally. Persian people, they don't ask for if you go to someone's house, they're supposed to have a spread out. This is just the dumb, and I think it's silly, like, to be honest, because it's like, I've been conditioned that way though. Like, when someone comes over to your house, offer them everything you have, here, and keep offering them. And then it's almost like, it's called tarof. There's a thing.
Tarof means what?
Tarof,
is a host?
It's like an idea. This whole idea of like, I offer you everything. Like, tarof mikona. I'm like, here, this is anything I have is yours, right? And then your job, and you're tarofing if you go, no, I'm good, and you don't understand. It's like, It goes both ways.
Yeah.
So you offer all these things, and then
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right. So I don't know. It's a cultural thing too, where it's like, I don't know.
Did you know why I said not that there's anything wrong with that?
I didn't. No, I didn't catch that.
I love that you just went.
I didn't catch it, and I didn't think.
After I did it, I thought to myself, Rick, know your audience, not now. But earlier, you had said, I don't remember what it was, but it was something that implied gay. You said, oh, fruity. You said something.
Oh, fruity drinks. Yeah, you
drinks.
said it, and then I was yes-anding it.
And I said, not there's anything wrong with that. And I was just doing a callback, and before I even finished a sentence, when I said not, I thought to myself, oh, fuck, Rick, just... You're literally having a conversation about how this is confusing. And then I did it.
Yeah.
But, that's as close as and I honestly feel like I'm becoming perfect. I know I'm not yet. So that's my miss.
Dude, you're so funny.
How are you right now?
I'm good. I mean, I've been good.
Good.
But it's like, having not seen you for so long.
Yeah.
And I knew that.
And us changing so much over this time.
Oh, dude, it's like, oh, okay. And I've grown up in so many different ways, but with you, like, I want to go back to our fucking open mic days. And it's not that anymore, where we're goofy and silly and whatever. I could be like that, but it's like, yeah, our dynamic is different. Like, if I sit down with Dino, Dino very well, dude, we fucking laugh our ass off. But it's like, we hang out all the time.
Yeah. And also, you can't fake where you are in a moment.
Right.
And that's why I said I can't always be a performer. You, by the way, and I want to let you know this, in more than one podcast, I have brought you up as one of the funniest comedians in LA. And your skill set of characters and impressions is not just voices. You're almost able to be more present in a character than sometimes you are as yourself, because you trust the character. You're comfortable in it.
Let me tell you real quick. So, like, when I said I came here when I was 5, bro, I like struggled to find an identity. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's why I do characters, and I can do voice and shit so well. And I learned that through stand-up. I'm like, oh my God, that's why I was doing that.
Yeah.
Because I would just mold into like whoever I was hanging out. If I was with Mexican kids, I became a Mexican kid. If I was with black, come on, man. But if I was with, if I was hanging out with these certain type of different people, like, I would start to be like, oh shit. So like, as an immigrant, I'm trying to find my identity here, and that's what made me like that. And that's why I can live in a character so well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, just be that motherfucker. And sometimes there was friends in high school that was like, I don't even know your real voice. Like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
The reason it said show me is, and it's fine that we don't do this, I wanted the audience to hear, I say one of because I can't think of anything. I can't say the best, but maybe you're at least one of the best I've ever not just known, seen. Saturday Night Live, anybody. You're fucking, and that's why I said show me, because I wanted people to hear, but I understand it's not an organic place
No,
necessarily.
and you also told me, like, dude, I'll never forget it. When I booked Mad TV, you were like, dude, you're the best at doing that. Like, you are the best. You live in a character better than I've ever seen. And I wouldn't forget that, because I appreciated that. Coming from you, coming from a person that knows me so well and knows this world and knows all these performers and shit. You know?
And it's not just the brand of Mad TV, and it's not just characters like sketch. Like, you could go up on stage as a character where it's not a parody. It's not silly. You could just be a different person with a different voice, and your hands are moving different. You're holding the microphone different. Your jokes are coming from a different point of view. I get this way sometimes when I get sincere for whatever reason. I don't feel emotional, but my eyes are watering up. So if you're seeing it, you're so tapped into that thing. And I think it's so interesting that that was developed as a tool. Also, you got lucky that for whatever gift, whether it's God-given, genetics, however people believe that thing is, you're able to manipulate your voice in a way that...
But that came from, like, dude, learning a different language at a young age to be able to manipulate your voice in a way that I was mimicking. I learned to speak English by mimicry. You understand? Mm-hmm. So, like, my parents didn't teach me English. So I would go to school and I'd be like, well, how are they talking? I would talk like them. So if I picked up a Mexican accent or something, I have a joke about it. Like, I moved here from Iran, straight from Iran to Southern California, and I no English. I didn't speak no English, and I had a Mexican accent for the first 3 years, because just the kids I'm around, I'm like, and it's like, then there's Vietnamese kids, Mexican kids, black kids. There's like all this, and there's different inflections in their voice, and I picked that up, and then to the point where you can understand, and you're like, oh shit, okay, and even like the way that you would say, because you hear like a bad impression of a race, it's so offensive. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't want to argue the semantics of the words offensive, but I understand that some people are offended, yeah.
To that particular race, it's offensive.
It depends on what it is. Like, if you're doing a bad British, it's not offensive. But if you're doing a bad Chinese, it is.
Bad Chinese or bad Indian accent or something, you're like, oh, thank you, come again, this bullshit. It's like, dude, what the fuck? But if you do it with the nuance of, like, a person that's actually, been around.
May I ask you, may I put you on the spot to do a couple?
Which one do you want, man?
Let me hear you do a Bruce Lee.
Come on, dude. Yeah, so
What do you have, an outfit?
Do you mind? I'm just kidding. I don't. Rick.
Okay.
What do you want to hear?
This is, by the way, just so if it makes you more comfortable, I'm not asking you to perform stand-up. I really just want to hear your voices. So let me hear you talk as a Chinese person.
Chinese would be like, talk like this a little bit. What do you want me to say?
Tell me about what you think about the liquid in this cup.
The liquid in the cup is clear, but if you drink it, it will disappear. And that's all there is to it. This is more Vietnamese. This is becoming more Vietnamese and more racing.
Yeah, I don't know if the timing is bad, but you have one of the really funniest BET characters.
I mean, this is all. Yeah, this is not the time.
We won't do it. I don't think we'll edit this out. But when I talk about people's stuff, I've learned that, like, I want to show it.
I know. I got to be in the mood. It's like, dude.
I get you. That's on me.
Even that, like.
Yeah, that's on me. I don't know if we'll edit that out. Either, hey guys, we're just coming back because I was trying to get impressions and it wasn't the right time, or don't edit this out and you understand what I'm doing. It's just so many. This podcast sometimes feels like a choose your own adventure thing. We're like, turn to page 34.
But dude, I've been really proud of you watching you do this thing, man, because
Thanks,
I saw
dude.
it grow. And I remember I texted you, I think. I listened to the first couple and I was like, dude, it's so funny what you're doing. It was really good.
So what I've really been getting, the validation I've been getting out of this, where I'm feeling what is one of the most commonly desired things a human being wants, which is, as you mentioned, to feel understood. And the feedback I get from this, being silly mustaches to being, Jesus Christ, are they mad at each other? And everywhere in between. Mm-hmm. People have seen enough of a range of me and are okay with it. More specifically, enjoy it and want to be entertained by it. It makes me very, very excited to go out and do an hour of stand-up where I can do both puppets and bullshit and magic wands, but also snap into a new like myself. And that's a tough thing to wait. Like when you're doing 20 minutes, it's tough to be dynamic between silly, serious.
Well, because your first few minutes they're trying to figure you out.
Yeah.
And whatever you're saying. That's why, I don't know if you ever told me this, but like it's hard for you to open a show because they're like, they don't know what the fuck is going on. And then you come out and you're so drastically different.
Yes.
But if you had a couple people before you, then they go, oh, this is the show. And then you come out and you're so different that they're like, oh shit, okay, he's being different. It's not that this is a show of crazy people.
I've learned that my opener is not just what I want to do, but it's where I am in the show. I can't do the weird thing if I'm up first because there's no juxtaposition.
Right.
It's just,
There's
a fucking
no frame of
crazy
reference.
person.
They go, this is the show we're in?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this? Is everyone going to be, they don't
Yeah.
know that you're so different and unique in your performance.
You have an interesting cheat that thing that I do that I have to find a way to control, open with something that's more broad, open as myself, or opening with big, depending. You're able to do any of them because the character that you play, you've gone out before as just a different person. And then I've seen you do this a million different ways. And 60 to 90 seconds in, you say, I'm just joking.
I mean, we haven't hung out in a long time. I mean, I used to do that like first 2-3 years. And that was like a fun, I don't do that. I mean, I haven't done it for years.
The point I'm making was it still worked. Because the character was, when my thing doesn't work, it's what the fuck is this? When your thing doesn't work, it's still, all right, I don't know what this is, but I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? You had that ability to, even when you were misunderstood, for some reason, it's still funny.
Sure.
And that's a weird thing. Voices are funny for some reason. Do you connect to that?
I think so.
Why do you think voices are funny?
I just think it's funny. I mean, if it's done well, I think it's very entertaining. And I think it's like people feel like, oh shit, I know that guy. Or if you do a character and you do it well, people are like, oh my God,
right.
like that. I know a guy like that. Or there's my mechanic is just like that guy that he's doing or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? So it's like, it resonates, and that's what I think makes the people feel like, oh, I'm connected to this piece.
George, who helps me edit my podcast and has been with me since the beginning of this, has told me numerous times, obviously off the podcast, and I have mentioned this in one or two. Earlier on, I used to talk about, I don't know if people are going to like this. I don't know if this is good, blah, 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 blah. And he's told me, stop saying that. I equate that to, in Steve Martin's book, he says, never let the audience know you're bombing, which I always thought was great because as much as we have to acknowledge the truth, sometimes, more times than not, we're projecting it. And people may not know it, and now they're thinking it.
True. And I don't know how many shows I've talked the audience out of, I did a good, you know what I mean?
I've seen you do it many times.
Where I go and I'll dig a hole and I'll start telling them that I'm bombing to the point where like, dude, and they left the show thinking it was a great show.
And now maybe don't because you told them it wasn't.
Yeah, because I told them, oh man, I could have done this better. And they're like, what the fuck? Maybe it did suck.
I've seen you on stage where I am fucking laughing so hard. And then you go, I don't know, man, fuck, this sucks. And I go, no, don't do that. Because not only are you stopping the momentum for the audience, you as a performer, once you go into that place that we talked about 40 minutes into this, it's really hard for you to get out of it. And it's like, no, dude. But I can't not acknowledge this podcast of the fucking roller coaster ride. And ultimately, podcast aside, for our friendship, I'm so glad we had this conversation. I think people who watch this podcast will like this. If people saw this as the first one, I don't think any of them would like me. And I don't know how they'll feel about you. Maybe they'll like you, maybe they won't. Yeah. But I don't think either of us are necessarily, we got to see their stuff.
Yeah. I mean, even till now, it's like doing the podcast, like when I do my podcast, dude, it's like a substitute for me going on stage. I get so goofy and silly.
It's short. It's like 20 minutes, right?
I mean, yeah, some of them. And then if I want to talk longer, I do. But it's like so goofy and fun because that's the break. But when I'm talking to you right now and we get serious and stuff, this is like a different side of what I do, or me connecting. And it's like, if I was to watch like a guy like me right now on this podcast, I may not go pay to see him, to be honest, after seeing this.
Oh, so is your intention of doing the podcast, and there's nothing, I don't mean to put judgment on this, I understand. Is your intention of doing this podcast to get people to want to come and see you do stand-up?
No, I'm just saying in like what we were just talking about. How you were like, oh, if people are watching this for the first time, I don't think it would be a great representation of like, oh, this is how this guy is, or if I went to watch him do stand-up, this is what it's going to be like. You know what I mean? You're telling me to do fucking characters. I'm not doing characters. we're doing these fucking things. We get in a fight halfway through the fucking thing.
See, I don't look at that. That moment that you look at as a fight was the moment where I'm like, I'm so glad we're doing this.
Right.
Didn't feel like a fight to me.
Not a fight, just a frustrated, like fucking boiled over conversation. It's like a lot of shit going on.
That thing, and here's why I feel like I liked it, and I felt like that's where like my chemicals were like, fucking, I'm having fun, because I've been conditioned to that thing. Forced us to connect.
Right.
And whatever we're connecting over, laughing, serious stuff that's maybe depressing, there's something so beautiful to connecting. And I'll never, not about never, but I usually do not feel that is, sometimes I have stuff, and my girlfriend has called me out on this on the podcast with stuff like the podcast I did with Tony Hinchcliffe, where out of all the podcasts, it was the most, if not the only one, where it was this. And I don't want to speak for Tony, but I do believe he would feel the same way. Neither of us in that moment, especially me, was like mad. It was just, we're passionate and we're talking and we disagree.
Right.
But I was fucking in with him, and I think it made for a great podcast.
Sure.
So anyway, I think...
but like if you're watching this, right, like you said, and you see it, you're like, okay, it depends on what you're watching. If they're a fan of yours, they know that what's happening. Right? They know it's going to get weird, and who knows. And I've seen, several podcasts. I'm like, dude, this is fucking hilarious. Watch the whole thing because I'm so entertained. But it's just the dynamic you have with the guests that you have on.
Right.
And sometimes it's great when the shit is butting heads and, things that go down. But it may not be like the normal thing that happens on this podcast.
Well, I feel that you and I, for better or for worse, how we got there, got to a point to where if we do another podcast, we have learned from each other. Like what you said about how open mics are important, and I do agree with this part, you never know where you could learn something, whether it's coming up with an idea or recognizing a trigger or realizing a trick of, oh, if I do or don't do this. There were a few of those here where it was all worth it for me. So I'm curious. People may like this a lot. People may not. I have no idea. A lot of times with a podcast, I feel like if they don't like it, this was the best that me and this person could have done, and I'm satisfied with it. And, on to another one another week. I never know how they're going to go, but I know that at any given moment, if we do another one tomorrow, it could be a completely different thing. So I don't know how this will go, but what I do think is we captured an honest moment in time, and for that, I like the way it went. I'm curious, and I probably won't do it, but I'm curious if it would be worth cutting out the first half hour and just kind of starting it with, hey man, do you want water or not? It's like, what the fuck did we walk into? But
do you know how funny that would be if I was in that outfit and then...
Right.
And they're like, how did they even do that?
Maybe it might be worth, instead of starting it with you at home at your studio, starting it with you in a king outfit, asking for water, and us like, hey man, if you don't want to do the costumes, then don't do it. Then like 4 days earlier, and we'll cut to, you know what I mean? I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot with this, but and please, even if you think you know the answer, take at least 5 to 10 seconds to think about this. If you're comfortable being completely honest with me and not worry about people pleasing, how do you feel right now?
I feel like we had a very good conversation at 30 minutes into this thing. In the beginning, I don't know what was happening. I was trying to play along with shit that wasn't even there.
That's interesting. You were playing with something that I didn't even realize there was something to play with.
And then you were going down one lane, and immediately I go, fuck, I don't want to be talking about that. And now I'm in a place of like, oh, this is cool. I got to talk to my friend Rick. But definitely not what I expected for this podcast. I thought we'd like go down memory lane, talk about funny shit that we did. And now we're just in a totally different place.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you put expectations on something, this is what happens. You get, blindsided with, oh shit, this is not where this is planning. So it was my mistake, because I anticipated this being a podcast where we talk or reminisce about us coming up, which
I did think we were going to probably do that too. But I do firmly believe in, when appropriate, and it's often appropriate, removing expectations is only a plus.
Yeah.
But before we go, because I do love this story, and I would love to hear the way you remember it, because it was such a long time ago. I would love to just talk about how we met, because we did connect very fast, not just on a personal level. I think our first interaction was actually one of the more sincere meetings, and it was at the Haha Cafe, and I want to hand it over to you after I explain how I remember it. Haha Cafe is a comedy club where, everyone has their own perspectives, and there's a million different of them for all the different clubs. But that was a tough place, because on one hand, it was the only place that I could get up, because I was too scared to go to the other clubs yet. I was new. But also, this place, they had an open mic that anybody could go up, and it was a good open mic, but everyone, including performers, had to pay $5. And that was at a time where $5 was, $45 for me today. $112 maybe. It was, I can't do this all the time. So how do I save money? And the way to do it is try and get in with the club, host, or help at the door, or do whatever their version is. And I would host, so you have to get there early, you have to stay late. It would kind of suck, and all to save $5. And I ended up getting in a position where I felt like this is my in into Hollywood, which was I get to host here. So I knew I had a spot, and I saved $5. And then you probably I don't know how the way I remember it, you had just moved to LA.
I was just getting into stand up. So I'd been in LA for like a year with my girlfriend. I was just like working the courage to go do stand up.
Oh, you're doing real estate, right?
Well, no, I had given up the real estate, and I was just like, at that point, I was just like living off of the. It's fucking loud out.
I know it's.
I was living off of the rent I was getting paid on the condo I had in Huntington Beach. So I had a condo in Huntington Beach. Whatever. I had a girlfriend at the time. We moved up here together, and I let everything go, like the fucking real estate shit. And then I was like, I'm gonna start stand up after like a year. And I did some bullshit like freighting job for her mom. Like I'd do sales or some shit. It was just bullshit. I didn't know what I was doing. Anyways, I got to the Haha, first place, because I was like asking around, where do you go to get up? And they're like, that's the place you can go. Like you said, the mic, it's $5. So I'd show up, and I would do the thing where there was maybe one or two times I showed up and I signed up, and I was hoping they wouldn't call me. Do you know what I mean?
Because you're scared to go.
Yeah, I was horrified, fucking horrified. Yeah, and then I was like, oh, okay, it's all done. And it was almost like time, where you're like excited about it. So this time was, I think maybe the first time I came in, or maybe the second time, whatever. Rick was hosting.
And that was one of the first few times I hosted, I remember, because I only did it like 5 times.
Right, but then it was like you said that you worked at a place so you wouldn't have to pay the $5. Shortly thereafter, like after I got into the club, that's what I would do. Yeah, I would be there from fucking 5 to.
That's when I saw your hustle thing. You were kind of like a manager of that place.
Just to be 5 minutes of time, and then if you got enough people off the street, that's where I learned to get the people off the street. Jack would let me do fucking 5 minutes on the Late Show. Yeah. So for fucking. 12 hours of my time, I would get 10 minutes.
That's what I meant earlier, by the way, and I'm talking to the audience now, but like when, during the days, he would just, all afternoon until showtime.
And to pass that, and close the fucking place down. Yeah. Just to get time. Anyway, because that was the only way to get in. I was had no, credits, no nothing. Anyway, I go there, and this is one of those times where I was like, I'd worked the courage. I'm like, fuck this. Tonight, I'm going to go on. And, Rick was hosting, and I go in, and this guy Rico Angeli, who's a friend of mine now, but he was like this Boston guy who was like kind of rough around the edges, and he was working there as like a door guy, or just doing all the bullshit so he can do the mics too for free. So he's there writing numbers in the phone, and I come up and I go, hey man, and he's like, no, it's all done. Like there's no more room. Like I'm going to go in the showroom. I'm like, nah man, can I go check it out? They're still going. He's like, nah man, I told you there's no room. And as I'm arguing with him, Rick comes out. And you don't even know me then.
Why would I do it then?
I forget. I don't know. What was it?
I don't know. That's what I wanted to hear how you remember.
You came out and you're like, hey, man, no, because he was getting really aggressive with me. Like, he was like, no, man, I told you to get the fuck out of here. Like, I told you, get the fuck out of here. And that's what he was telling me. And then you had come in right when he was doing that. And you're like, hey, chill out, man. What the fuck? Like, he just wants to go on. Let him, come into the room or whatever. And he wouldn't let me into the room. I don't know what it was. But you defended me there. And that's why I was always like fucking... I don't know. I always liked you from then on. I was like, dude, this guy's dope.
Oh, did you not get to go up still?
I don't remember if I got up.
I remember that you did.
Maybe it was
I remember that,
but maybe I got in the room and you let me go on, or I forget how exactly it went down. But you defended me in front of him and then let me go into the room. I remember that.
I like that story a lot, and I like that it makes me look good because I defended you. But specifically, I didn't. Knowing what I know now, I have a very soft. I get very triggered when people are taken advantage of or bullied. I don't need to go into my past about it, but it's I don't like it, and there's something about it that I feel like it was less about. Oh, it doesn't matter. This is going to take too long, and this is just something that I was thinking. I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you. Seeing him do that, seeing somebody do that to somebody, makes me so mad that no.
And that's the place that it came from, because it was so fucking weird. Because I remember I was in shock, and I was like so new that I wasn't standing up for myself. You know what I mean? Like I was like, fuck, this is Hollywood. You know, when they tell you like,
right,
dude, you don't get any breaks, and that was my first thing, and I'm like, damn, they really don't want me here. You know what I mean?
It is that way a lot of the time.
Yeah, and he was like, get the fuck out of here. Like he was literally saying that, and that's when you stepped in. You're like, hey man, fucking chill. Like you kind of like were like, dude, chill the fuck out. What are you doing? He's like, no, man, I told him to get the fuck out of here. Because I was persistent and annoying in that way. I think that's what happened. Because I asked him once. I go, hey, man, can I sign up? And he's like, no. And then I asked again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was like this Boston guy, So he's like, man, fuck you. I told you, get the fuck out of here, And then that's when you came out and saw it. So I think that's what it was. It was like totally that. And I guess you got me in and I got to go up or something.
Yeah, like, well, the same way, like when you said come in to your house for the fifth time in a row, and I go, no, it's like this is not the way. No, and it's that same thing. And the reason, the point I wanted to make was, I remember you told me a while after we became friends, I'm making this number up, but let's say 2 years later. Rick, I remember the first time we met, you defended me and blah 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 blah. I didn't remember that way. And the point I'm making was, and yes, I did and would defend you, but it was more about like, no, no to him more than yes to you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I do remember
Well, you didn't know me, so why would you say yes to me? But it was just like you were saying no to the situation of him telling me to fuck off.
I saw what was happening to you was unfair, and it had nothing to do, you were not in control of it. It had nothing to do with you. You could have been him or her. So I'm just saying, here's a person that I don't know that I feel somebody is mistreating. So automatically my feeling is no. I do that when it's me. No, don't eat the orange. No, you said you'd be ready in 5 minutes. Come out.
Yeah.
Point I'm making is 2 years later, when you tell me, Rick, I'll never forget that, it made me feel closer to you, that you felt a connection with me in that situation. And I just remember that made me feel good about myself. And I like that our first meeting was it wasn't then, and then 14 years later was the second time we've ever connected on this podcast. But I like that we met in that situation, and I like that story because...
It's not bad. I've been doing comedy 11 years. There's no way. It was, how long?
Well, I'm saying this. This episode has taken 3 years.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway,
but let me ask you this. So, but shortly after that, we started hanging out around. We started hanging out a lot, but that was like the foundation of our friendship.
Yeah, that I didn't realize that you felt like I didn't realize it. Like when you said to somebody, when I first met Rick. Because the first time I heard this was in a story of you telling it to somebody.
I've told that story 100 times.
Well, yeah. I found out about it from you by you telling that story to somebody. And it made me feel good about myself. It made me feel like, yeah, that was cool of me. And I just like that. I guess if I'm being honest, I wanted you to tell that story because, hey guys, look at, as mean as or aggressive or as direct or as annoying or whatever I am, I was nice to Amir when we first met. Maybe that's where that's coming from. And
dude, I could remember like the setup exactly. Like Rico was sitting at the table right there with a Celtics jersey on.
I remember popping out through the curtain on the side.
Yeah, and you popped out through the curtain.
Because I heard him. I heard him telling you no.
He was yelling at me, dude. He was like, "Get the fuck out of here!" I told you. I was like, "What is happening here?" And it was just like, it was crazy. But then you get that a lot in the shit. You get it a lot. I got it a few times after that, like people trying to get me out of there.
That particular place?
Yeah. Like I don't know if you remember. Like he was
A
trying
little
to-
bit.
Yeah, he was trying to get me kicked
But
out. Or some shit.
you're not doing anything wrong. But just I don't like if we're not seeing nice things about people. I don't like doing it.
Oh no, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything bad about it. He was just like he just didn't want me at the club.
Gotcha.
So, and then he.
We'll
told
still
me not
make
to.
sure we bleep that name. But I hear you.
Yeah, you don't need to put that in there. For sure.
All right. Well, I don't know how we can necessarily get an ending. Maybe if do you want to go back?
How did we do the studio?
I was leading into that.
I want to go back to my studio.
Yeah. Do you want to go back with a mustache?
I would like to go back with my. And I'm hungry, dude. You didn't even offer me anything to eat.
What do you want? A shrimp cocktail? Just you'll eat at home.
Yes.
Okay. Well. Just like the most basic way of mapping this out. This has the most edits where it is the least clear of what we're doing. I don't know when you're going to be a king. I do. I just don't. I know how this is going to come out. I just don't know if it's going to come out that way. So we'll check it in post.
Well, could he take me back to the studio at least?
Yeah, but can I get rid of this fucking beard first?
Do it.
I've had facial hair since I started growing it in quarantine, and it feels nice to be clean shaven.
It looks good. I'd like to get back to the studio with if you can give me.
You want a mustache?
I'd like my mustache back.
All right. Well, then let me get rid of mine and give it to you.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get rid of mine real quick. This is the stupidest podcast.
I love it though. I mean.
Oh man, it's taken.
Got it down.
For however many bits that we've done versus the disconnect that existed, it's as they say in French, elle est un trois et quatre, which roughly translates to
Les incompétents.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dope. Okay, thank God.
Yep.
Dude, what is that? How do you
It's just the tone of the podcast. It's just the tone of the podcast.
But can you do it with anything? Like
What, you want to have a goblin coming around with his penis out?
yeah. Put a penis in my mouth then. Oh, dude. How do you do that? Okay, fine.
All right, what do you want to eat? I got to go. What do you want?
A shrimp cocktail.
All right.
Okay, dude.
All right, man.
What the dude?
Well, enjoy your shrimp. And as always, scoot doo. Bubbity blue.
Goblin, do you want one? Here you go, buddy.
Okay.
Scoot doo. Blabbity blue. Scoop dee. Oh yeah.